Here we're going to talk a little bit about your Vista contract, which you've already seen up to this point, or it's in your packet. Vista contracts, just essentially what you are required to do in order to get the end benefit of the Ed Award, or to continue getting the benefits that are listed below, and to successfully complete your service. So essentially, you must complete 1 year of service, and that is from the time you sign up and a year from that point. So if you sign up in September 2019, you're going to go until September 2020. So do not expect that. What to expect during your Vista year. So there's going to be some professional development that happens. Our monthly meetings are a good source for that, but also your local community, which is Dalton, is going to have multiple things happening throughout the year that you will know about. We will let you know about. Feel free to sign up for any of those that we're forwarding you and sending you, because that is most likely a free opportunity to get a certificate in something, and you can't deny that is really great to put on a resume. Yeah. There are some hardships with Vista, as to be expected, and most of that does come from money and budgeting. So we do have a lot of people experiencing hardships during this time, but keep in mind that Vista is designed to give you insight into the people that you're helping.
Yep.
It is supposed to be service oriented and something that you can really learn from during your year. Of course, the hardships of just day-to-day Vista service. Sometimes Vista service and just AmeriCorps service in general can be very, very hard. You're going to be doing work that is challenging and will make you think, but don't fret. There's always someone there to help you, and questions are always available. And some days you're going to be sitting there like, what am I even doing? And other days you're going to be so swamped with work that you won't know what to think. But that's very typical of a AmeriCorps program and AmeriCorps membership.
Yeah.
Budgeting, which I'm going to go into in a little bit, but please, right now, very first thing that thinks your mind when you're thinking of, what is this year going to look like? It's going to look like budgeting. I don't necessarily, especially with your living stipend and your living allowance, you're going to want to budget that the most effective way that you can. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. Some do's and don'ts. Of course, keep in mind that you did sign up for a year contract as needed when needed. Please do not attempt to exit service early. If you're looking for future employment, that employer needs to know that you are expected to serve this full contract until the end of September or wherever you started. If you do choose to leave service early for any reason other than a compelling circumstance, you would be disbarred from service and not be allowed to come back into service. And that's any AmeriCorps program, not just AmeriCorps Vista, AmeriCorps State National. You would not be allowed to do any type of program. Of course, as long as you keep your service agreement, your contract in mind, you will be fine and follow it to the T. That is essentially your terms and conditions of service. You don't want to do anything outside of that, and just, as you're going, keep that in mind.
So some of the benefits, like Alex said, she mentioned the living stipend. If you're a AmeriCorps member, Vista member, you get a specific amount every 2 weeks. And this is, for some, shock.
Yeah, at first.
For some, at least for me when I started, it was a steady income that I had not had for the previous 6 months. So it was nice.
Some people it's shock in the opposite way. Some people think it's nice, and some people it's shock because it's so low. And I don't want you to go into service thinking, oh my gosh, this paycheck is so low. I want you to know that, number one, it's not a paycheck, it's a living stipend. And number two, you're doing this for service. You're doing this to get this experience.
Exactly.
Don't think of it like I'm making so little. Think of what you're doing.
Yeah. And there will be days, believe me, we both have experienced them, where you will be like, why in the world did I even, think about this? But then you think of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are days when I know that I'm just going to be real, like I've complained about it. Like,
Yeah, everybody.
you
I
know,
mean,
everybody has to some extent, but at the same time, I'm very, very thankful for what I have and what I have been able to do with this living stipend. So yeah, the relocation allowance, if you are coming or relocating from some place, I think it's further than 50 miles, correct? Is it 50 miles?
yes, it's greater than 50 miles.
Greater than 50 miles. There is a relocation allowance, and I believe that the price or that amount changes depending on your situation.
It depends on your situation and how far away you actually are.
Yeah. So definitely ask us about that if you are relocating. Now, health coverage. There are there's lots of different things you can do, but with this, there are two different things with this. One of the things, well, first off, you can go to vistacampus.gov/healthcare. And I actually have the Vista insurance. Whereas other people who are on, like, their parents' insurance still, they can use another program.
It's the Vista Living, or the Vista Allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called an allowance.
And it's where you get reimbursed
Yes,
for things
out
like
of
that.
pocket
Yeah.
copays, stuff like that.
From experience, I highly recommend if you do use your health coverage to use it, yes, and also to double check before you go to a specific doctor's office, making sure that they take your insurance. Otherwise, you'll be like me and paying out of pocket for something that you thought was going to be taken care of. So there will be like learning curves
Yes.
in your year of service, but I'm very, very thankful for having health coverage.
Yeah, and if you're having issues with health coverage, which is through IMG, it's the online provider, please do not hesitate to reach out to someone. You only have 30 days from the start of your service to sign up for health coverage.
Yes.
And if you do not, it becomes drastically more difficult to get you in the door.
And as somebody who has experienced this twice, because I actually forgot to sign up within the 30 days, they were very nice. They you just call them up and they just take you through the process, but do so as quickly as possible. That way you'll have that coverage. Yeah, but they're very nice. IMG works very well, and they give you all of the information you need, and don't feel like you can't call them.
Yeah,
So,
for real.
yeah. Training throughout your service, you'll be provided training. Sometimes, depending on your site, you might have training that I know NGHP has taken us to trainings before, and sometimes it'll be in Atlanta or somewhere else. Other times it'll be to Chattanooga. So it just depends, and each site is different. So that is actually something that is really cool, because that's usually that is taken care of by your site.
Yeah, and keep in mind that with this training aspect, there's also something called in-service training that AmeriCorps Vista themselves will provide. And do not, if this happens during your year, and I'm letting you know about it, do not miss out on this opportunity. It is something unique, unlike anything else you could possibly go to that even I could provide to you. In-service training provided by CNCS is, most of the time it's in Orlando, which, right, Orlando, who doesn't want to go to Orlando? But it will give you the opportunity to actually meet other AmeriCorps members and other Vistas, because they bring lots of people there. And you get to learn about how to build your resume after service, how to apply for grad school with your Ed Award. I mean, the things are endless that they teach you about, but I just want to let you know right now that most likely during your service it will happen at least once, and please do not miss it. It is something that I do give the information more quickly to people who have never gone, but which would be you. But please, if you can, sign up for it and go. So
Yes. Okay, so childcare. There is childcare available. Like, if you have children, childcare assistance is available to you if you're eligible. You do have to apply for this assistance, though, and there's a little bit of a process. So
it's
let
actually
us know.
quite a bit of a
Yeah,
process.
yeah. I don't think
We've never had a Vista member actually apply for the child care. I do know how it works. You go to a very specific website, you apply, they send you all the paperwork. You have to send paperwork to them, essentially telling where your child's located, how much it costs, et cetera, et cetera. And they will give you a stipend based upon how much the child care actually costs. They will cover a certain percentage. They will not cover, I would say most of the time they do not cover the full amount. They will cover close, but they don't cover the full amount. And that's just what I've heard, but I've never actually had someone apply.
Yeah.
And this cannot be used for like Billy Joe's daycare in the backyard. This has to be used for an established institute daycare. So Dalton Daycare, Friendship House, Kitty Carousel, you know, those are just some local ones, but it has to be used at an establishment and someone who's registered as a child care center, not just my mom's watching my baby, can I give her money? No, you cannot.
Yeah.
All right.
So the education award. So at the end of your service, you can get the education award or the end of service stipend. So it is your choice, but there are certain things that,
I would say 90%, if not more than 90% of people choose the education award. The cash stipend is for Vista members who may not necessarily want to go back to school and just wanted to help serve, and that's completely fine as well. If you are over the age, I think of 55, I'll have to double check, but if you are over a certain age, technically considered a senior, you can transfer this award to grandchildren who are within certain ages. This next portion of the PowerPoint is going to go into a little bit about the education award, because I know that that's what people have, I would say, the most questions about in terms of benefits, how it works, what it looks like, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so here are some limitations on your Ed Award. It is available for only 7 calendar years from the last day of service, and technically I'm pretty sure that that's 5, and you have to apply for the last 2. So please keep that in mind while you are planning to use your Ed Award, how often you're going to plan to use it, what you're planning to use it for. And that is not eligible during extensions, so in terms of extensions of service and things like that. It's not transferable to your dependents, and of course there's that caveat of if you are a certain age, you can transfer it to grandchildren. That's the only caveat. But yeah, you cannot have, say for instance, I'm a mom with 3 kids, I cannot transfer it to one of my kids. You are limited to 2 full-time education awards. Unfortunately. We wish we could get more. Yeah. But say for instance, you are an American member who serves part-time. You could technically serve 4 terms and get an education award every single time because it's part-time. But you can only serve twice full-time and get the education award. You can serve up to, as an American Vista, 5 times. But that's it. It is counted as taxable income in the year that you use it. So do keep that in mind if you're going to use it. Yes. Please keep that in mind. For free tax prep, please ask Alex or Caitlin. This is something that we can get you hooked up with and linked to. But I'm not going to put it here.
Because you will most likely, depending on your situation, qualify because of your low income.
Yeah, your low income, you'll qualify for that, and that's completely. So tax liability is dependent on, number 1, your annual income during the year of use. Number 2, the education amount that you used. And number 3, your eligible personal tax credits and deductions. So for instance, are you single or married? Do you get exemptions? Are you in school, or do you have veteran status? And all of those things will be your taxable income. Those are taxed at the federal rate and the state rate. Now this is where I keep with the caveat that your living stipend, your living allowance, does not take out your state taxes as a Vista. That is something that you have to save up for throughout your year and pay at the very end of the year. So please keep that in mind. I do not want you to be blindsided, whether you're using the Ed Award and you have to pay the taxes on that, or whether you're at the end of your year and your state taxes come and you're like, why do I owe $300? Well, you owe $300 because you're not paying them throughout the year. So please keep that in mind. What can you use it for? You can use it for qualifying student loan payments and eligible educational expenses. And qualifying, I mean, it cannot be personal loans, which I'll get into that in a minute. Using the education award to pay qualifying student loans. It is only used, again, for federal student loans. It can be used to make payments, but it cannot be used for private student loans or Parent Plus loans. So please do not come into service with the intention to use it for that. Some colleges do provide Ed Award matching, which if you're curious about, please take a note on your little notepad right now, jot it down, and I can actually send you the website where they actually tell you if they match. Matching means they'll match up to a certain percentage of your Ed Award. Some will match it to 100%, some will match it to 50, 25, what have you, but still it's nice to know if you're going to school where they do that. This is what requesting a payment looks like, and payments cannot be automated. So this over here to the left of your screen is your AmeriCorps portal and what it looks like after you're actually accepted as an AmeriCorps member. You would scroll down, go to My Ed Award, create an education award payment request. This screen to your left will pop up, payment type, and then amount authorized. So the payment type, of course, you would just pick from the drop-down box, whichever one you need. And then institution information. You will search your institution. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. You need to make sure that the institution you're sending it to is the 100% correct institution.
Yeah.
And that gets a little bit tricky. If you do not know, if, say, for instance, 2 people pop up that say, okay, this is Nelnet, but which Nelnet is it? You need to call Nelnet and say, hey, I have this. Which one do I need to send it to? Do not just send it willy-nilly into
Yes,
the database.
I've done this, so I have called them. So you definitely need to do that because
Pretty much everyone on there is going to pop up at least twice. I mean, you're going to have to wind up calling your loan provider minded as well.
Yeah.
Okay. How to explore this option further. So you can please watch Matching Student Loans in the Vista campus. It'll explain a lot more about how to manage your student loans. And I said matching, but I meant manage. A lot more about how to manage your student loans while you're serving as a Vista, and it will go into greater detail than what I could here. This is some expenses beyond tuition. So again, I mentioned qualifying student loans and other expenses. These expenses are non-tuition expenses, and they must be directly attributed to a class. These expenses also are through Title 5. Title 5? Essentially an accredited institution. Not just like Billy Joe's Shack where we teach you how to saw and stuff.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But it can be used for supplies, so books and equipment, and your cost of living while you are going to school. When to request a payment, do it as early as you possibly can because it takes a long time. And especially if you mess up, it takes even longer. So research tuition payment deadlines, most likely at the end of your Vista year. If you have to start making payments right away, you're not going to make that first payment with your education award. You need to have that squared away somewhere because it does take 4 to 6 weeks to process. So definitely don't try because you don't get it until your very last day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't try to do that. Don't try to be making your tuition payment very last day of Vista and thinking it's going to be due in there by tomorrow because it's not.
No.
And please talk to your financial aid office first. They're going to be the people that process this payment. They may not know what it looks like, and I'm going to need you to actually go and talk to them so they're not confused. It doesn't get sent back and take even longer.